Real hot girl shit. And if the beat live, you know Lil Juke made it. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. Body crazy curvy, wavy big titties, little waist. Body crazy curvy, wavy big titties, little waist. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. How I body that, ate it up and gave it back. Yeah, you look good, but they still wanna know we're making it. Saucy like a barbecue, but you won't get your baby back. See me in that dress and he felt like he almost tasted that. Num 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 num, eat it up. Go play okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the hottest. You ain't never gotta heat me up. I'm pretty. All them bitches scary cats. I call them Carol Baskins.
That I did.
Body yaddy 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 yaddy. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. Body crazy curvy, wavy big titties, little waist. Body crazy curvy, wavy big titties, little waist. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. I'm a hot ebony, they gon' click it if it's me. All my pictures been getting these niggas through the quarantine. Bitch, I'm very well. On my shit as you could tell. Any hoe got beef from years ago is beefing by herself. So if they all came with you, they better know exactly what the fuck they came to do. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. Yeah. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. Body crazy curvy, wavy big titties, little waist. Body crazy curvy, wavy big titties, little waist. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. The cattle get the way it's sitting. That ratio so out of control, that waist, that ass, that titties. If I were me and I would've seen myself, I would have bought me a drink. Took me home, did me long, ate it with the pennies on. I could build a house with all the brick. I got that pop. I'm not the one to play with, like a touch me not. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. Body yaddy 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 yaddy. Body crazy curvy, wavy big titties, little waist. Body crazy curvy, wavy big titties, little waist. Body yaddy 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 yaddy.
I think might be slightly better, but it's really, I honestly think it was the best choice that I've made personally for myself. I use cannabis medicinally. I need it for medicine, and I also use it to, obviously, for myself, for enjoyment, have a good time, but mainly for myself, it's medicinal purposes. And with getting a card, you save a lot more money as well, because in Massachusetts, it's Taxachusetts, honestly, it's just tax. Almost 30% in taxes, which is a lot. So it's a lot better once you have your card, because then you get no taxes on top of your actually allowed to be using discounts on cannabis products that you're not allowed to otherwise. Like if you're recreational and you go to a dispensary that offers reward systems, they can't offer you a reward system to use on the products. You can only use it on the accessories for the products. But if you have a medical card, you could use it on both. Now, the only thing, though, I will say is that I know of for Massachusetts, once you have your card, every dispensary is different. They will offer different reward programs, and some places will not offer certain things that other places do. And that's kind of how you'll figure out and find your way of which dispensary you like to go to that's better, which one do you prefer more. I know, though, there's a lot of people that still don't purchase from dispensaries. I was one of them for a long time, because it can be expensive on top of many other different reasons people don't want to, or if they just don't have access. Like in other states, unfortunately, it isn't legalized like it is here, and it might be only legal for medical patients, or not even at all. And we really need to get on the ball on that, because I don't understand why, looking through all of these different states and the ones that have legalized it, why their qualifying conditions to get the card is completely different. I mean, all of the lists, they might have some similar ailments or qualifying conditions, but they're not all the same. And I find that kind of weird. Why is it that one state will allow you to get your medical card for this reason, but not another? I don't quite understand that. I think that we all as a whole, all of us need to come together as an agreement and with the regulations on these, because I don't know how to word it exactly. But like for another example, Kentucky, they're only medically legal right now, but they only allow CBD oil. But in another state I'm looking at, Louisiana, for their qualifying conditions, none of which list anxiety or bipolar, which is personally the reasons why I was allowed and gotten my card for. On top of I also have ulcerative colitis, so that I definitely qualify for. And it was a much simpler process than I had initially really thought it was. Like, had said, I know the process. I know how it works. I just didn't from firsthand experience it until I had experienced it. And making the phone call was super easy. Setting up the appointment was super easy. The doctor I spoke with was very kind, informative, also easy to talk to, and made the process just a lot simpler. I believe I got everything that I needed done the next day. Like, it took about a day to get everything all together. And that's also because I don't have a printer at my own home, so I had to finagle and go somewhere else. So if you do have your own printer and stuff like that, then it will be a lot simpler. But you have to have access to a printer or your phone your printer and a phone in order to be able to access and print it out from your portal. If you don't have a phone, you can do it on the computer, either or, but most people might not. They might just have their phones, so that's why you can do it on there also. But depending on the area that you're in, you're going to have to do a little bit of research and figure out what qualifying conditions they have, if they allow the medical program, and what documentations you'll need to give them, because there will be some documentation you will have to put forth to receive your card, like proof of your residency, which is pretty simple. You just need a piece of mail that has your address on it, and it has to be in a certain time period and a certain type of mail. And they have all this listed on the Cannabis Control Commission website. If anyone is interested, I'll put the links below for all of the resources that you need to try and get your card if you are in Massachusetts. You will need a proof of identification, whereas like a Mass ID or a driver's license, either one of those. I believe maybe a passport as well. There are other forms that they require if you do it that way instead of how they initially tell you to do it. Something I will say that is very important that a lot of people don't realize, and I was one of them also. I didn't notice this at first. I had to, really pay attention because I'm also dyslexic, so when it comes to numbers and stuff, I'm always paying a lot of attention. But with this, the dates for when your registration expires and when your certification and your registration are two different things. So pretty much your paper, your form written by the doctor, giving you that number that you'll receive from the doctor to be able to put into your registration to sign up in the Cannabis Control Commission for your program. Every year that needs to be renewed, unless you have a doctor that you're speaking to that can extend the time longer. With that, they do require different forms of identification and other stuff and documents from your past doctor's visits and stuff like that. So that's a little bit more extensive. But every year you just have to renew it. The date will be different than like I said, the registration date and the other one. So I know that I did say the last podcast we were going to talk about something different. I did really want to talk about terpenes and get into all of that stuff. But because of what I have planned for that, I feel like it might take a little bit longer and be extended out a little bit. So I kind of wanted to talk about something else. And that this has just happened recently, so I thought I would talk about this first. Because I didn't plan on getting sick and any of this other stuff, and I did not plan on getting my medical card so soon. So it is what it is. Life is life. We can't really keep our plans 100% how we make them. We just got to go with the punches, right? But like I was saying, guys, there's a lot of states that are, working on what we're trying to get done. We're trying to get full legalization everywhere. We want, in my eyes, I would like it to be everywhere 100% fair, and we all have the same regulations, and it's not so confusing for everybody, because I think personally it's not fair that we don't allow certain qualifications or certain regulations to fall through on different areas. I think it's just not fair. Marijuana has been stigmatized long enough. The fact that it's taken so long to get where we are when we should have been here a long time ago, and probably further than we are, is just quite sad. The amount of people in prison for cannabis crimes still happening now is just quite sad. Like, for example, Georgia is one of the most restrictive states for cannabis. If you're caught with more than 1 ounce in your possession, it could potentially lead to a felony charge, which, if you aren't aware of how much a how much flour is in an ounce. That's 28 grams. Half an ounce would be 14. To me, that's still not that much. That is a lot for personal use, I guess. I mean, it's not. I use that much. But to be charged for a felony for that is quite ridiculous in my eyes. And I could be wrong, guys, so don't quote me 100% on all of these laws for different states. If it comes to Massachusetts, I know what I'm talking about, but I had to do a lot of research for the other states, and it's constantly changing the laws anyway and regulations, so I'm not sure if I'm 100% up to date on the other states. But as I was saying, how restrictive they are, their approval for the conditions that they have are very strict also. And they really only give it to people who have AIDS, Alzheimer's, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. I apologize if I did not. They allow this thing called HB324, which is allowed for medical use of CBD oil only, and it has less than 5% THC. So they only allow low dosing of THC or CBD cannabis oil. They do not allow anything different. From what I've read, I don't think they allow any smokable flower. I'm not sure. That's still completely mind-boggling to me that's like that. Or like how in Maine, you can use your Massachusetts medical card there, and you can use in the medical program, you can use the card there. But your allotments don't add up. They're not the same. So like your allotment can be different in Maine than it would be in Massachusetts. I think from what I understand for the reasoning of that is because you're not technically supposed to be going back and forth between Mass and Maine with it, so that could be why, I'm assuming. I might not know why. If anybody does who's listening and I don't know the reason, please let me know, because I'm very curious about that. I'm really interested in all this stuff. I really am. It's interesting to read about, to learn more about, and to talk about, honestly. Another very restrictive state is Kansas. They're one of the most restrictive as well. They only allow CBD products with like less than 0% THC, which is pretty much impossible to find because most oils at least contain some traces of THC. So to find anything with none is quite impossible. And that was around 2018 they allowed that. I'm not sure if that's changed since. I'll have to look back into that. I hope it has. But yeah, guys, I mean, I could go on and on talking about the different states, and I feel like I shouldn't because, like I said, some of this needs to be updated, and it's not 100% accurate. But it is, from reading it, even though might not be 100% accurate, it's still showing how different all the states and their laws are, and it's freaking weird a little bit. It's not fair that we don't allow the same programs. Same with healthcare. I mean, it's the same type of thing. We don't allow the same type of healthcare all over the world, so I'm not surprised that we're not doing the same for cannabis, which if we did, we would be helping a lot more people. I feel like that also, cannabis can change the economy a lot, and I think that a lot of people are scared of change, and that's pretty much what it comes down to is fear. People who are unaware or ignorant to the plant, they don't know the truth about what actually goes into cannabis and how it actually affects our bodies and our brains. They just think, oh, you're smoking a plant and you're getting high. I mean, that's not 100% accurate when describing use of cannabis. I don't think that when I'm using it. I'm not like, oh, I want to just go get high. I mean, there are times where you'll feel like that for sure, and I'm using it just recreationally, but medicinally comes first for me anyway when I speak about cannabis personally. It has saved me from a lot of problems in my life, as well as just physical things that I need help with, like my pains and ailments. That helps a lot with it. Like I had, for example, the other day I came home from work with severe back pain. Like it hurt so bad I was almost crying on the way home. I almost threw up actually too from the pain. I come home, I smoked a bowl of, I believe it was some apricot roller coaster, and like 20 minutes later my back didn't even hurt anymore. I was really surprised about that because I did not expect it to go away that fast, and it did. But mentally, too, it helps quite a bit. And right before my boyfriend, who had passed away from suicide, he was finding himself with cannabis. He wasn't into it for a very long time and gotten back into it from the guidance of me, of course. I wasn't going to just try to get him stoned out of his mind. I wanted him to really get the medicinal benefits from cannabis because I knew that it would help with his depression, anxiety, and all